evening, my dear colleagues. Welcome to another Inget Zoom series. Today, our guest is a friend of mine and a distinguished colleague, Dr. Esen Metin. Dr. Esen Metin works as an English language instructor and teacher trainer at Çankaya University Prep Unit. Her areas of interest include teaching Turkish as a foreign language, very interesting, curriculum and materials development, critical thinking, and intercultural competence. This evening, the title of her talk is Step Out of the Comfort Zone with Critical Thinking Activities. Thank you, dear Esen Hocam. So nice to have you with us. Welcome again. And the screen is all yours.
Thank you, Aydın Hocam, for inviting me as well. Well, Inget has a special place in my heart, so I'm really happy to be here with you tonight. And thank you for the participants for being here tonight as well. So today I'm going to talk about the comfort zone and critical thinking activities, the two phrases that you might be hearing too often. But for me, critical thinking is an all-time hot issue. So I never, in fact, get tired of talking about critical thinking activities. So I'm going to share my screen now, but when I share the screen, I won't be able to see the comments in the chat box. So I'll try to answer your questions at the end of the session. Okay, so. So in the session, all sessions are like a journey, by the way. We have some stopping points. And first, I'll try to explain why we need critical thinking skills. I'm not going to start with what, but I'm going to start with why, because I want to convince you first. Then I'll talk about what exactly critical thinking is and how can we develop critical thinking skills in classroom. So we're going to end the session with talking about your takeaways. So the first part is the why part. Before getting into the topic, I would like to introduce you a bird species, okay? So this is the inaccessible island rail, and it is endemic to the inaccessible island. Have you heard of inaccessible island before? Okay, so it is, as you see, inaccessible. It is in the South Atlantic Ocean, and it is quite far away from the land. And this bird species is special because they are the smallest flightless bird in the world. Although they are as big as a rodent, like a squirrel, they can't fly. You know, generally the flightless birds are, they are big, by the way. But this one is small, and they only live on this island. So when they were first discovered in 1923, the researchers thought that, in the past, there were some, island bridges, so they were able to walk on this island. And when those islands just submerged, they were imprisoned here. Okay, that's why at first they were named as Atlantesia rogersi, just like the Atlantis island, which was, which sank. But thanks to developing technology in 2018, the researchers discovered the roots and their closest relatives. And let me show you there. Okay, you see where it is located. By the way, this island is an extinct volcano and there is no settlement there. There are few animal species living there, especially birds. So the closest relative of this bird species is the South American dot-winged crake. And they live in Uruguay and Argentina. So you see the resemblance, I think, in the first two pictures, and you see the difference in the second picture, the wings. So the researchers have come to this conclusion that these birds, in fact, managed to fly to this island a million years ago. But when they found this island, they found a good place because, you know, their diet consists of berries, seeds, beetles, and worms, which were abundant on this island. And when they found this island, probably they didn't bother flying or going away. Instead, they stayed here. But soon after, they didn't bother flying because, you know, flying requires energy, okay? And they evolved into a flightless species, or should I say devolved. So what are the implications? So what is wrong with this? That's okay. They are living their time, okay? So they got everything they need, but the researchers are worried that if any guest predator arrives on this island, they would become extinct, okay? Now they're already enlisted as endangered. So what are the implications? Why did I start with talking about this bird species? What do you think? Why did I start with them? Any ideas? Nope. I can't see the chat box if anyone is writing there.
Yes, Mert Hocam says, use it or lose it.
Exactly. When we don't use our skills, we lose them, right? So we can also say that, you know, the comfort zone, okay, can be alluring, but it can cause at what cost, let's say, okay? So comfort zone is comfortable, but nothing grows there, okay? If you stay put in this comfort zone, your skills start to decay. So in order to change, in order to grow, in order to transform, we need to push ourselves from the comfort zone. So as you can see in this famous graphic, okay, it is difficult to get out of the comfort zone because there's the fear zone, okay, outside the comfort zone. So we need to go forward the fear zone to reach the learning zone. And as you see in the learning zone, when we deal with new challenges, problems, we start to learn and then we start to grow. Okay, so what are the implications for language classrooms? What can we infer from this information? So what should we do or what should we avoid? What is the comfort zone in our context? As I said, Hocam, I can't read the comments if anyone is writing something or if anyone wants to talk.
Suzan Hocam says, doing what is familiar, doing what we know, being in our safe area, not risking anything.
Exactly. So when we have the monotonous pacing, when we do the same routine every day, when we don't introduce anything new. So if students get used to, okay, everything we do in class, they will be just in the comfort zone, okay? So in order to, you know, let them, in fact, we need to push them forward so that they can learn new skills and gain new skills. So, and another thing that we need to take into consideration is the neurolinguistic research. So the cortisol is the primary stress hormone, and there's a close relation between this hormone and learning. The research says that the right amount of cortisol helps, in fact, the formation of memories. But interestingly, it hinders memory retrieval. That's the reason why, in fact, students fail in exams probably because their stress level is high, so they can't remember. So we can just guess that in comfort zone, there is low level of cortisol. You don't bother, okay, in fact, doing anything. In the fear zone, it is too high that it paralyzes you. And in the learning zone, it is at the now right level. Okay, so as you see, there's a biological reason as well why we should deal with challenging tasks in class. So my question is, do you think introducing challenging tasks that are demanding and thought-provoking can help students learn and remember the material better? For sure, right? Do you think we can boost the learning capacity of the brain and possibly the mind by implementing challenging problem-solving tasks for students? Why not, right? Okay. And another reason why we should also consider critical thinking, using critical thinking activities is the famous 21st century global skills. Yes, Aydan Hocam loves this very much, I know. OECD has categorized the global competences into 3. So literacy skills, which are about the foundational knowledge of the subjects, and life skills, which in fact consist of our values and which forms our values and attitudes, and the learning skills. So the learning skills are the 4 C's. You might be already familiar with them: critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. So as educators, we cannot just deal with one aspect of learning. We have to, in fact, take into consideration all these in order to, equip our students with necessary skills to survive and compete in the 21st century. So that's another reason why we should integrate critical thinking skills into our lessons. So are we convinced now? They're important. We have to use them, right? Okay, so we can move on to the what part. Okay, so what do we mean by critical thinking? So is it critical thinking? So critical thinking requires problem solving. So the problem is solved, but at what cost? Can we say that it's a good solution? It's an effective one? We can see lots of examples around us, right? Okay. So here we have some statements. Are these true or false? Let's have a look at them. So critical thinking is the same as disagreement. Is it about, the critical word has a negative connotation because of the criticism, but critical thinking doesn't necessarily mean disagreeing with everything or disbelieving everything, okay? It is about questioning. It's not about disagreeing, by the way. So the second statement, critical thinking allows you to dominate somebody else. So I know better, I can think critically, so can I just, think that I'm superior? No, in fact, critical thinking brings intellectual humility. The third one, critical thinking doesn't require information or creativity. No, we need information. So we need to use the information. We need to construct knowledge as well. And we need creativity as well to solve the problems. Critical thinking comes naturally. Well, curiosity comes naturally, but critical thinking doesn't necessarily. So we need to work on it. It is a developable skill. Okay, it's hard to pronounce. So we can, if we work on it, we can develop it. But if we don't, we won't have critical thinking skills, unfortunately. So critical thinking entails nitpicking, focusing on details. No, of course, we need to consider the details, but we need to see the big picture as well. Okay? And critical thinking is overthinking. It's not overthinking. Overthinking kills us, by the way. Critical thinking is thinking right. Okay, so in short, critical thinking requires observation. So we need to not just see things, but we need to notice them. It requires skepticism. It requires questioning, asking questions, interrogating reality. It requires objectivity. We need to be aware of bias and we need to avoid bias, by the way. It requires analysis, probing, delving into, breaking things into parts to understand it better. It requires open-mindedness. We need to take every perspective into consideration. And it requires, of course, creativity. We need to think outside of the box, of course. So what are the qualities of a critical thinker? So critical thinkers ask pertinent questions, relevant questions. They distinguish between facts and opinions. They explore new ideas, look for clarification, try to find out new solutions. They evaluate statements and arguments. They are willing to reflect, and I can see the last one, okay? And they are open-minded, okay? They are open to new things and challenges. So how can we achieve that? Here, I'm going to share the activities that I generally use in my classroom. So they're all tested and approved, by the way. I'm sure that you're also using different type of activities. So I'll be glad if you share them at the end of this session as well. So these are just suggestions, and these are my interpretation of what critical thinking is and how it is applied. So you will see my point of view throughout the presentation here. So before starting how part, I want to also remind some important points. We need to know what we're doing and why we're doing. You know, generally we have a syllabus to follow and we have book units to cover. And if we just rely on them, if we don't think which activities designed for which purpose, we won't be able to, you know, let's say, develop those skills effectively. We need to be aware of everything. What activity is used for what purpose? And we need to be aware of it. And if we are designing something, if we are designing an activity, we need to know why we are doing it. We need to, in fact, be aware of what the outcome should be, okay, or could be. And another thing is we need to scaffold instruction, especially in critical thinking, teaching critical thinking skills, because we cannot expect our students to understand a task or accomplish a task right away, okay? So just like the building constructions, we need to, you know, provide them scaffolds, and step by step, we need to, you know, let's say, remove the scaffolds. So first thing is we need to model whatever we want them to do, okay? So modeling, and then giving them instruction, guiding, giving them feedback, monitoring, and then letting them do the activity on their own, okay? This is the process of also, in fact, creating autonomous learners. So adjust instruction. This is also important, you know. Whenever you, in fact, read about an activity or hear about an activity, we shouldn't treat them just like a frozen ready meals so that we can just get out of the freezer and heat it and serve. We need to, in fact, well, we are the chefs in class, okay? We're the cooks. So we can't serve every food to everyone, okay? We need to make adjustments. We need to make changes. So everything we see, everything that I'm going to present here also, please regard them as suggested recipes. So you may need to add ingredients or subtract ingredients according to your students' taste, which is the level of your students, the age of your students, and the interest of your students, okay? So it's important. So according to that, we need to adapt the materials as well, and use graphic organizers. You know, graphic organizers, in fact, help us to, let's say, visually represent information, and it makes, in fact, learning more comprehensible. So try to use as much as graphic organizers as much as possible. Yes, and practice. In fact, you know, we need to be persistent, and we need to be insistent to develop a skill. So we need to, you know, allocate enough time for practice. I know we have strict syllabus and, you know, programs to follow, but this is our challenge then, okay? So we need to think critically to, in fact, integrate these kind of activities into our teaching. Okay, So there's no one answer to this solution, but according to everyone's context, we need to evaluate as well. Okay, so how part? Well, generally, I try to focus on these 4 critical thinking skills in language classrooms, okay? The questioning skill, the unraveling, I like calling it unraveling, problem solving and decision making, and reflecting. So why do we need questioning skill? Because students can use it to gather information, to understand the context in depth or issues in depth, and to become autonomous learners, to take their ownership of their learning. And it also creates, in fact, a power shift, because they have the power when they start asking questions, okay? And there are some strategies and tasks that you can use. I'm going to, in fact, talk about them. And unraveling, what do I mean by unraveling? Well, when you look at the world, you know, everything is interwoven now. Facts, opinions, realities, interpretations, everything is mingled. So we need to unravel the truth, okay? We need to, in fact, understand the difference between them. So we need to distinguish observations from interpretations, facts from opinions. So that's an important skill. And problem solving and decision making. Our lives are full of problems, and we need to be, in fact, good problem solvers, effective problem solvers. And in order to make better decisions, we have to practice these skills as well. And reflection, well, in order to gain self-awareness, in order to understand our own selves and gain new perspectives, we need to reflect, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to just go into detail now. Okay, so the questioning. You know, in traditional classrooms, it's generally the teacher who asks the questions and students answer the questions, okay? So in the new world, okay, we can't, in fact, rely on that. We need students, we need individuals who can ask relevant questions. So this is a technique used by TPRS teachers. TPRS, teaching proficiency through storytelling and reading and storytelling, sorry. Okay, this is a simple activity, by the way, but starting with from low levels, you can start using this activity so that students can understand the structure of asking questions. Okay, we need to start from somewhere. So this is, in fact, good place to start. Here, we start with a statement first, okay? You give them a statement, then you ask students to write a polar question. A polar question means whose answer is a closed question, whose answer can either be yes or no. So they first ask a polar question whose answer is yes, okay? Then they write a question whose answer is no. Then they write another yes/no question, we can also say, giving options, using or. These are the basic ones, these are the easy ones. And in fact, this provides a gradual, let's say, it starts from low level and goes to higher level when you continue asking the questions. After these polar questions, we encourage them to ask open-ended questions using WH questions, but the answer should be there, okay? The answer should be in the statement. And then we encourage them to ask a question whose answer is not there, okay? With this activity, they, in fact, start to understand the nature of questions, okay? And here, I have an example. You know, I like using stories while focusing on critical thinking skills because they provide great context, and I don't lose too much time in comprehension activities because they are already familiar with most of the stories. And they're also, I think, motivating and engaging, and they have also a problem-solving nature. So you can use it for very different purposes. So you can adopt any story you like. And I think they refer to all age groups, by the way. So this is an example. So here we have a statement, in fact, introductory statement of Cinderella's story. And we start with a positive, you see, polar question, a negative polar question with options, and then WH question whose answer is right there, okay? And another question whose answer is not that right there, okay? We don't know. So, as I said, in order to just practice the question structure, we can start with this, but using only this, in fact, technique is not suitable, of course. You can also use longer paragraphs or bigger texts, not just fiction, but you can also use factual text, okay, and use this technique, let's say. So another thing is, yes, another thing that I like, okay, is KWL chart. In fact, this is a very flexible chart. This can be used for different purposes. And you can add letters, you can change the order, you can use it any way you like. And this can also be used for reflection as well. But I also use it for students to ask questions, to come up with questions. So in the first part, what I know part, students, when you want to use it as a pre and during activity, as a reading and listening activity, you can use it with this order, KWL, okay? So in K part, they discuss, you give the topic, for example, and they discuss what they already know, or you can ask them to write the questions whose answer they know. Okay, whose answers they know. So they can also write questions in this part. And what I want to know part, what they in fact expect to find in the text, what kind of questions they have about this topic, and what they think that the text will answer. And in the last part, they do it after reading, by the way, or during reading, they can use it. They just summarize what they have learned. Okay, but if you want to use this as a during post-reading or listening activity, you can just change the order. You can use it KLW format, and after they read the text, they can just write down what they already knew in the text, okay, which information was already familiar, and then what they have learned in the text, okay, and what else they want to know. They can write the questions, okay? So this is an engaging way to help students ask questions. Okay, and in order to find out factual information, we can introduce the journalistic 6. So these are the, in fact, W and H questions. So if you, in fact, present information like this, they, in fact, they like it, okay? As if they are doing something different. These are the, in fact, basic questions, WH questions, but instead of calling them WH questions, call them the journalistic 6. It's just like a movie name, right? So we can, for example, bring a headline, okay, from a newspaper and ask students to write down the journalistic, use the journalistic 6 questions to find more information about that headline, for example, okay? And we can give them the examples first, and they can then just come up with the first questions, and then you can give them the news, and they can try to find out if their questions are answered or not. Okay, so we encourage them to ask questions. So another activity that I use, in fact, this is also very engaging. Students really enjoy it. After we study a story, for example, I assigned a role to each student. For example, one of them becomes Cinderella, stepmother, the prince. I also add sometimes the author as well, okay? And I appoint an advisor to each, okay? So they're not alone. And the rest of the class acts as reporters. So they prepare questions. And during the prep time, the characters also get ready for the possible questions, okay? And you create a scene, okay, like a press conference. You can call it panel discussion, but I like using press conference title because, as I said, it just changes the attitude of the students. Once, one of my students, in fact, asked the author an interesting question. So they come up with really interesting questions. I can't think of such creative questions on my own. One of them asked to the author, why did you choose an uncomfortable shoe material for Cinderella? Do you hate women? She asked, sorry. And the answer was also nice. The student who was in fact pretending to be the author said, well, it fits every color. So they come up with really interesting, in fact, answers, and they enjoy it. And when you create a scene like this, I know it's now difficult with the hybrid and the online, but you can also create an online press conference, I think. I haven't tried it yet, though. Okay. So if you want to go into deeper, we can use question and answer relationship. You are quite familiar with that. You know, our students are, in fact, unfortunately used to rote memorization learning skills. So whenever we give them a reading text with questions, what do? They don't bother reading the text. They just look at the question and try to find the answer. And they call it test technique. Okay, which I don't understand. For me, there's no test technique, by the way. There's comprehension. So with this strategy, we can help them understand the nature of questions. Okay, so what kind of questions are generally asked? Generally, there are 4 types of questions. So the first one is right there questions. So the questions that students can easily locate by scanning. Okay, and then there are think and search, slow down. Okay, you cannot answer it that fast. Okay, you need to use a different strategy now. Think and search questions, because in order to answer them, they have to go over the text and find meaningful parts and then connect them. Okay, for example, main idea questions, summary questions, like compare and contrast questions. Okay, or they can be asked, oh, stop. Now, the answer is not there. It is implied. So the prediction, the inference questions, the guessing meaning questions are the author and you questions. So you need to, again, use a different strategy. You need to use contextual clues to find the answers, okay? Or they can be asked personalization questions, okay? So they use their prior knowledge and experience to answer them. So they relate to their experience, okay? So what's the use of this? Well, when students understand which questions, okay, requires what type of strategy, okay, they understand the text better, and this is in fact critical reading skill. So they understand the text better, they understand the questions better, okay? So if you want them to go deeper and deeper, you can use Socratic questioning, okay? So question the author is, in fact, a very in-depth activity, let's say. You need to find an engaging text first, and you need to segment it. So you need to find stopping points where you can just stop and ask students questions so that they can analyze what the author means. Okay, so Socratic questioning skills can be used here because, you know, in Socratic questioning, there are 6, in fact, groups of questions but I think there are mainly 3: clarification questions, probing questions, analysis questions, and justification questions. So we can, in fact, introduce the Socratic questioning to our students first, and then we can just help them, okay, answer these questions. But here, first, we need to model it, okay? How can we do that? By using think aloud strategy, for example, okay? So you can also show students how to annotate a text, okay, while reading. Okay, this is important. I have to underline this. Okay, this means here, here the author might mean something. Okay, so we have to also show them how to annotate a text and how to answer these questions. So think aloud is a good strategy to use in that respect. So we can show them the thinking process while we are answering these questions. Okay, the author said this, used this word, so he means that, blah, blah, kinda. Okay, so think aloud strategy is in fact, an effective way to introduce Socratic questioning. We can also use these questions during discussions. When students make a statement, question them. Okay, you know, the aim of Socratic questioning to provide productive discomfort. I like this word, in fact, productive discomfort. So, you know, we don't like being questioned. Remember what happened to Little Red Riding Hood when she started asking questions to the wolf? Well, it was going to eat her anyhow, but still, you know, nobody likes being questioned. But here, the questioning, in fact, brings out new meanings. That's why it's important for students to practice that. I'm going to give you a very simple example from my past teaching. Once when we were discussing, you know, have you ever tried this? Do you like this kind of conversation? One of the students said, okay, have you ever tried sushi? He said, I hate sushi. And I said, okay, so hate is a strong word. So why do you hate it? He said, I don't like it. I hate it. Okay. What you don't like about it? So there must be something that creates that feeling, right? And he said, it is raw fish. That's why I hate it. I said, have you tried it? He said, no. Okay, but there are different versions. There are different options. Have you, okay, do you know them? He said, no. Okay, there are lots of people who love sushi. Have you asked their opinion? No. He has no information at all about sushi. Okay, he hasn't seen one. He hasn't tasted one, but he says, I hate it. So lack of information, okay, creates polarized visions. Okay, so when we ask these questions at the end, I asked him, okay, so you don't have enough information, and how can you hate something that you haven't tried and that you don't know? I said, and then I asked him, okay, how could you express your idea about, okay, sushi? And he said, okay, I have no idea about sushi. I can't say anything. Okay, so by, in fact, asking questions like this, okay, yes, make them feel uncomfortable, but they reach a conclusion at the end. Okay, so this is just a basic example. So we can achieve more by using Socratic questioning in class. My favorite topic, yes, unraveling. I'm sorry. So when you look around, you see opinions disguised as facts. You hear fake news, real news. So it's hard to distinguish what is the reality, what's the interpretation. So we need to also teach these skills to our students. So our feelings are mainly the result of the way we perceive reality, not the reality itself. So we need to be aware of the objective observation and subjective interpretation. So, this is a picture that circulated in social media with very romantic captions. So, how can you describe this photo, this picture? Are they hugging? Again, I don't see the comments. So if there is any answer, I don't know, John, help. Are they hugging, or is one of them strangling the other?
Aycan Hocam says it looks a bit forced. Işıl Hocam says seems as hugging at first. Seemed as hugging. Mert Hocam says it depends on the mood. Oh, come on. Oh, Fatma Hocam says strangling. Ooh.
Okay.
Violence.
In fact, the name of the tree tells us, in fact, the tree on the left is called Strangler Tropical Fig Tree. So it is not hugging, it's killing the other one. Okay, so, but as I said, in social media, they use that as, oh, I need a friend like this who can hold me all the time. Come on, too much love will kill you, Okay, so a perfect way to study observation and inferencing is picture descriptions, by the way, okay? You can give some questions to students so that they can just tell their observations, which are based on our five senses, and the possible inferences. So while we mean by inferences, the Sherlock Holmes skills, the inductive reasoning skills, okay? You have evidence and you draw conclusions, okay? So we're going to try it out together now. So if anyone wants to unmute themselves and contribute, please do so. So who is in the image? Now tell me the objective observation, not the inference. Who is in the image? Unmute yourselves, please. I don't see the comments in the chat box.
Esen Hocam, some people connect using their phones, and it may be problematic to unmute themselves. So I will say I will read what they write. Mert Hocam says, a woman. Işıl Hocam says, a young lady in the front.
Okay. So a woman, when we say young, is it an interpretation? According to whom? Young. Okay, young changes from one person to another, right? So yes, there is a woman.
Yes, it is interpretation.
Okay, so there's a woman in the picture, but we can infer that, well, she must be in her 20s because she look fit and fresh, no wrinkles, no sagging, right? So that's an inference, okay? So what is the person doing? The objective observation now. What is the person doing? What is she doing?
Looking at something.
Looking at something. What is that? Can you see what is she holding?
Is that pepper?
Yes, green peppers.
Okay.
She's holding 2 green peppers. Okay. So what's the person doing? She's holding 2 green peppers and looking at them. Okay, so what could be the inference?
Defne Hocam says,
infer?
Checking the use by date.
Okay.
We have very naughty participants here.
That's okay.
Suzan Hocam says shopping. Şebnem
Grocery
Hocam
shopping, right?
says trying to buy fresh vegetables because they are expensive. Checking freshness. Fatma Hocam says doing grocery shopping.
Grocery shopping, yeah. She must be grocery shopping because she's holding peppers. So we use our prior knowledge and experience to make inference. Okay, so in inductive reasoning, we don't only use the evidence we see, but we also use our prior knowledge and experience. So when we are holding a pepper like this, we're generally buying it. Okay, so probably she is grocery shopping. So where does the image take place? Indoors, outdoors?
Outdoors, out on the
Outdoors.
street
Yeah.
grocer. I'm reading them out loud, Esen Hocam.
Okay.
On the street, in front of a greengrocer, out, street.
Yeah, so we can infer that she's at an open marketplace, right? Okay, so when did the action in the image take place? When? Is it daytime? Is it night? It's daytime, right? Okay, so here, why question, in order to answer that why question, we don't have enough circumstantial evidence to make an objective observation, okay? So the answer to this question will be automatically inference, okay? So why is the action happening? Because she needs groceries, right? She needs to cook, okay? So can you tell me any other observations and inferences about this picture? For example, we don't see the whole picture, okay? But we understand that she's holding something, right? You know, our brain connects the dots. Although we see a part of it, the brain, in fact, sees the whole picture, okay? Creates it, fills in the blanks. So we understand that she holds something, okay, because she's grabbing something, okay? So what is she holding? What do you think?
Is it leek?
Yes, it's leek, I guess. I think it's leek.
Just
so
predicting.
So what is she holding in her hand? We don't see the rest, but you can
Most
infer.
probably a bag.
A bag, a shopping bag, right? What's in the
her
shopping
bag
bag?
seems heavy.
Why? Because look at the muscles, they're tense, right? So from the muscles, we understand that, oh, she is carrying something heavy, okay? And there is a leak, so what is she carrying? A bag of groceries?
A bag of vegetables, someone
says. A bag of vegetables? Possibly. Okay, so good Sherlock Holmes skills. I want to share another thing from my students' answers, by the way. I said, you know, can you make any other observations and inferences? And one of the students said, well, her haircut looks like Diana's. So probably this picture might have been, in fact, taken when Princess Diana was popular. And I was impressed, you know, they come up with so amazing inferences like this. So now let's see the whole picture. What's in the bag? Okay, yes, our brain created the whole picture, but real life is more creative than our brains, you know. Okay, so as you see, this is the whole picture, but this time, okay, this time, we're going to do interpretation. What's the difference between interpretation and inference? You know, both of them are based on evidence, but in interpretation, there's a point of view. So this is something personal. Okay, so interpretations may change from one person to another. Okay, so describe what she can see, hear, or smell in the picture. Now we use our personal experiences, prior knowledge. Okay, so we think about the time when we were in a marketplace and what we see there, what we hear there, what we smell there, we remember it. Okay, so yes, can I hear some answers? Describe what she can see, hear, or smell in the picture.
The moment I get some answers, I'll read them out loud.
Okay.
Well, most probably, Işıl Hocam says, I can smell the leek.
Okay.
Does leek smell?
Like an onion, I guess.
Okay.
It smells like onion.
Yeah. No other answers. Well, of
No other
course,
answer.
this
Okay.
is an hear her baby eating or biting into the fruit.
Yeah, okay. The baby cries. Okay.
No, the crunching sound.
Oh, the crunching sound.
The baby is
Okay.
eating something.
Yes, yes. Okay, the crunching. Okay.
I can hear street noise.
Street noise.
Maybe cars passing, buses going
Nice.
by.
Yeah.
See pepper and fruit. I can smell the fruit. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's
Well,
nice.
where are the fruit? I can see the fruit. These are all vegetables, right? I don't know. I
But
don't.
okay, we can't see that clearly, but there can be
Yeah.
some fruit as well. Okay,
Aycan Hocam says, I can hear footsteps.
footsteps. Oh, yes, it's crowded. Okay, so
Yeah.
describe how she feels and tell why she feels that way. How she feels. Okay, look at her
Hesitant.
expression. Hesitant. Okay, why?
Tired, someone says, exhausted.
Oh, tired, exhausted. Yes, she's wearing high heels and carrying a baby and doing grocery shopping. Oh, okay. She must be
Why
tired.
is she wearing high heels?
It's stylish, probably.
Okay.
Okay.
Fatma Hocam says she feels hungry.
Oh, she feels hungry. Okay.
Maybe coming from work, Işıl Hocam says. Yeah, but she's
baby,
carrying her
maybe.
baby.
Maybe.
Can it be the take your baby to your work day?
Oh, why not? Okay.
Why not? Okay.
So what seems important to this person?
Esen
What can you
Hocam,
say?
I need to read this. Trying to figure out why on earth can this vegetable be so expensive?
Perfect. Okay, using, you see, personal experience, current personal experience. Okay, exactly. Okay, so what seems important to this person? Well, healthy eating can be important to this person. You know, she looks fit and she's buying vegetables, right? So we can expect such interpretations from our students as well. And the last question is a personalization question. How would you feel if you were suddenly placed in the picture? So you can get some interesting answers for this question as well. Okay, if you want, you can just answer it right away, or we can just move on. Okay, I don't know, John, any answers for this one? How would you feel?
Well, Suzan Hocam says important not to drop the baby or the bag doesn't tear. So maybe she will interrupt and just say, carry your baby properly. I don't know.
Yeah, in our times, it's really, you know, it looks problematic, but in 80s, you know, it was not a problem, I guess. You know, we weren't wearing seat belts by then. We were sitting in front of the cars in 80s, so we survived, right? So in 80s, maybe they didn't care, but now, yes, it's a frown upon, right? Act. Okay.
I would feel irritated. Fatma Hocam says. Fatma Hocam, Esen Hocam says why, if you want to give an answer. I guess. Aycan Hocam says, I would feel my feet hurting. Okay. So Abedi says, I like shopping, so I would feel good.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Yes.
Uncomfortable.
Okay. So, as you see, we can teach the difference between observation, inference, and interpretation using pictures like this, okay? And they enjoy, because, you know, using detective skills kind of activities are really, in fact, engaging for them. Okay. Oh, another important part. So facts and opinions, you know. Facts tell us about what the world is all about, and opinions tell what the people think about the world. Okay, so today, especially, it's important to distinguish facts from opinions, I think, because in fact, in democracies, it is highly necessary, because you can become polarized easily, okay? In fact, using wrong information or evaluating the information in the wrong way. So let's have a look at this. So we can teach what a fact is and what opinion is using these kind of, in fact, statements. This is just an example. You can also use this activity for the texts that you are teaching. You can, after introducing them, you can ask students to find facts and opinions in the text. So let's have a look at them. Turkey is a transcontinental country lying partly in Asia and partly in Europe. So how do we know that? Is the fact or an opinion? You can open a map and you can just see it, right? So it's a fact. Turkish people are hospitable. This is something that we like to hear, right? But this is stereotyping. It's positive stereotyping, but still it is stereotyping. So we need to also teach them about stereotypes as well, okay? Because stereotyping, puts people into, prisons, okay? They lock them in that image, and it creates, in fact, false judgments. So an average Istanbulite driver lost 153 hours in congestion in 2019. This is taken from a research, okay? So it is a fact, statistical data, okay? And it looks terrible, right? By the way. Turkish cuisine varies across the country. Is it a fact or opinion? It's a fact, right? Because, when you go to the region, different ingredients are used, different ways of cooking, okay? So it varies. So there are lots of evidence. Turkish dishes are delicious. Yes, if you read travel blogs, you will, in fact, encounter these statements a lot. Yes, they are delicious, but that doesn't make it a fact, by the way, okay? The use of adjectives, the use of adverbs, okay? We need to also teach them what to look for in a fact and opinion. So the vowel harmony in the Turkish language makes it sound melodic. So this is, in fact, an opinion disguised as fact, because one part is a fact, but the rest is an opinion. So yes, there is vowel harmony, but for some, it may sound melodic, but again, it's an opinion. So the best Turkish ravioli is made in Kayseri. Who says it? I say it. I'm from Kayseri, but that doesn't still make it a fact. Okay. And problem analysis and decision making. Our life is, as I said, full of all kinds of problems, and every day we have to make dozens of decisions, maybe hundreds, okay? Even deciding what to teach, how to teach is an important, in fact, a decision-making process for teachers. So how can we do that? So in fact, we can group problems as tame and wicked. So tame problems are well-structured problems. They have just one single answer. And if you have enough information, if you know how to solve it, if you know the formula, you can just solve it, okay? And at schools, we generally introduce students tame problems, okay? 2 times 2, 4, multiple choice, 1 correct answer, okay? But just introducing them tame problems, in fact, create an illusion that the world is full of tame problems, and if they do it the right way, they can solve it. No, okay? The world is a wicked place, and we encounter wicked problems every day. Okay, so what are wicked problems? Wicked problems are ill-structured problems. So they don't have a single answer, but there are some possibilities that you can choose to solve that problem. Okay, So each possibility means it may bring different consequences or ramifications as well. So each solution may bring another problem. This is how real life is, right? So if the world is wicked, if the problems we encounter are wicked, we need to also make our learning wicked, maybe. Okay, so in order to solve these wicked problems, we need to first analyze the problem, define the problem, okay, analyze it. And we have to come up with a different solution so that we can evaluate each solution, think about the, possible consequences of them, and then choose a solution, do an action plan, implement it, and oops, we have another problem. Okay, so it's just like a vicious circle. So we need to introduce this concept to our students as well. So how can we do that? So case studies provide great context for this. So this is taken from a book, by the way. So using case studies, which in fact presents real life problems, is a good way to students, analyze problems. And you can also give them a graphic organizer like this so that they can analyze the situation, okay? Rather than giving them just a question, whether, is immigration good or bad, giving them a case study like this makes it more, in fact, comprehensible and meaningful activity for them. So reasons to stay, they analyze information, reasons to move, the pull factors, the push factors, okay? So they go into deep, okay? And after the analysis, they have to make a decision, okay? They don't make a decision right away. So after the analysis, okay? There's no right or wrong answer for wicked problems, okay? So, which career path to choose, which department to study, whom to date, whom to marry. So there are possibilities and you pick one, right? And as I said, we need to deal with also those as well. So introducing controversial issues is also a good way to introduce problems. 2020 is very important in the space race because these 3 billionaires are racing with each other to, in fact, go to space. And it has, in fact, sparked great discussion. And this is also a topic that I recently use in my classes. That's why I wanted to give it as an example. So how did I use it? First, if I start the lesson or discussion with this statement and ask agree or disagree, okay, without giving enough information, 80% of the students will either say agree or disagree, okay? But this kind of activities, in fact, lead the students to be polarized, okay? The world is not just black or white, okay? The world is full of colors. So rather than giving them just 2 limited options like this, first we need to, okay, tell them how to make decisions. Okay, this is a decision making, to agree or disagree, right? Okay, but in order to make a good decision, first you have to have enough information and you have to analyze all the perspectives. Okay, so how can we do that? So instead of doing this is a no, okay? We need to, in fact, introduce the idea of spectrum, okay? So every decision making, okay, every decision you make falls onto a color. So life is not, as I said, black or white, okay? Life has different colors. So you don't need to whether agree strictly or disagree, okay? You can be on a different color in each topic. So in fact, introducing the idea of spectrum also helps us to, achieve inclusive thought, okay? So all ideas are welcome, it means, okay? So how can we achieve that? So the first thing, they have to, of course, be informed about the topic. So they have to collect first factual information. So, this year I was, I don't know, John, yes, you raised hand? Wrap up? Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, I forgot the time. So in order to collect factual information, I give them the questions and, I ask them, where can you find the answer to these questions? And they said, the websites of the firms, the companies, and the newspapers. So they collected information and they compared and contrasted factual information on a Venn diagram like this. And then I asked them to collect for and against data on billionaire space race on social media. My students are university students, so they have access to all social media tools. So it was easy for them. But if they cannot access to social media, you have to do the preliminary research and you have to collect the ideas. In fact, Twitter provides great resource for that. And with crowdsourcing, what do we mean? I didn't know that this was a technique, by the way, when I used this. Okay, I just came up with this idea. But then when I read about crowdsourcing, I said, oh, okay, this is what it is about. So crowdsourcing is, in fact, collecting people's ideas on different topics. So they use the crowd as a source of information. So they collect their ideas, and the companies do that to collect the perspectives and opinions of the customers so that they can produce products for them. But here in our situation, we can also ask students to, collect ideas, for and against ideas from the social media to learn about different perspectives. And after they, in fact, completed this pro-con T-chart, I asked them what their opinion was. And here 80% of them said, well, teacher, on this, when we consider this, okay, it's a good thing, but when we consider the other things, it's not. So they were not black or white, but they represent all different colors with their answers. Okay, so for multiple perspectives, crowdsourcing is a great tool. And the last one is reflecting. I'll be just quick. So we, as Dewey said, we don't learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experience. So in order to gain insights, create new meaning, we need to look at things retrospectively, so we can ask such questions. What challenged you while doing the task? So I'm just moving on to the activity. So this is just a sample CT activity to show you how you can use the reflective task. So this is not how I presented in class, by the way, with these wording, but just to give you the idea. So this is an analysis task. So they identify the acceptable and unacceptable behavior. So they have to consider the characters and all perspectives, and they have to justify why they're acceptable, and then they have to ask one relevant question. But after doing this activity, they have two reflection tasks. The first task is about if they did the activity right or wrong. Okay, so this is like a rubric, by the way. Okay, they consist of, as you see, yes, no questions, polar questions, and they answer these questions, and if they say partly or no, they go back to the activity to redo it. Okay, and then they have the overall reflection about how they felt. So their first thoughts about the activity, whether they were positive or negative, so interesting discoveries they made, the challenging moments. So they help them to, test and evaluate their experience. So they learn, in fact, more about both themselves and about the content as well. So I would like to finish my presentation with Socrates. I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think. So we cannot just limit our teaching to the, book information or basic skills, but we need to also integrate critical thinking skills into our teaching. So for references and further discussion, you can always contact me. And the my last PPT is about your reflections. What are your three key takeaways from this session? And I'm stopping sharing. The floor is yours now. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Esen Hocam. It was so good. I just missed the time, and I was just trying to think.
Sorry,
And
I'm sorry.
no,
by
no,
the
no.
way.
As the moderator, I had to warn you, but it was so good, I didn't want to. So I know that people may have questions. That's why I asked you to wrap it up so that people can ask you questions.
Okay.
If you have any questions, you can use the chat box. If the device that you use allows it, please unmute yourself, ask your question. Aycan Hoca thanks you. Very informative talk. Ayşegül Hocam says the activity, they like the activities, they thank you. Okay, so you can see the chat box now. I don't need to read everything.
I can see them.
Well, I definitely liked it when you said, yes, we are in a hurry. Yes, we always say, I need to cover the syllabus. I need to cover the book. But you said we don't need to put the syllabus aside. We don't need to put the book aside. What we can do, we can always implement or scatter critical thinking activities all over. That's a wonderful idea. So we don't need to worry about not being able to cover the syllabus or the book. We can, but we can teach them additional skills. And it's an excellent investment if they can. Yeah, isn't
These
it?
are lifetime skills, by the way, not just language skills. So it's a gift, by the way.
Yes,
definitely. And students say, teacher, we're learning more than English, and I like it. Yes, last week I got feedback from my students, and really they enjoy such activities.
Yes, they do. You know what? We do as well, don't we, my dear colleagues? You know, it's at this age, I still want to talk about Cinderella. I have already written down 2 questions that I would like to ask that stupid prince, for example. Right? Yeah. Oh, what? Is it really? Şebnem Hocam, saatler geri alındı. 1 saatimiz daha var. What?
Is it?
Şebnem Hocam, you're trolling us. No, come on. Okay.
Frank.
Yes.
Okay.
Emine Hoca says, quite informative, entertaining. Yeah. Esen Hocam is famous with that, you know. Her sessions are excellent. I always enjoy their sessions. Why do you think I invited her? Well, she was pretty busy trying to finish her PhD. That's why I had to wait.
Thank you.
Hocam, could Esen Hocam send us her PowerPoint slides? Is it possible? Ali Hocam, you're going to study for your midterm.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Ali Hocam, I may send it to you, but in fact, I'm working on my article right now. Okay, so these are all taken from my article, by the way. So yes, of course I can share, but please refer to it if you are going to use it somewhere.
Yeah, I think he has a midterm coming. That's why he wants to study. Ali Hocam, have you taken Esen Hocam's email?
I can write it down here.
If
Hocam,
so,
sorry, I missed.
Okay, so
I'm
Esen
writing
Hocam is going to put it in the chat box. So why don't you send an email to her?
Yeah, you can
and she can
me.
Send the PowerPoints to you.
Okay, Hocam, thank you very much.
And don't worry, Esen Hocam, Ali Hoca has...
No problem, and you can check my thesis, by the way. It's, although in Turkish, it's on critical thinking and intercultural competence, by the way.
After leaving the midterm exam behind me, I will do it as soon as possible.
Yeah. Okay.
Ali Hocam's leisure activity is to attend universities and complete his studies. I don't know how many diplomas he has. He's now studying
Wonderful.
to become an English language teacher. So, yeah, I know Mert Hocam. Şebnem Hoca always does that. She likes playing with me. Şebnem Hocam, shame on you. You, yes. Okay. Okay, any other questions? Can you? Yeah. Okay, and one more comment about the last quotation that you shared from Dewey, one of my favorite educators. Yes, we don't learn from experience, but we learn when we reflect on the experience, and not every experience is worth learning from, believe me. So be careful. Be careful. Thank you. I love you too. Esen Hocam, I don't know how to thank you. This was
Thank you.
great. I
you.
hope we can have you again. And believe me, next time I will give you 70 minutes to talk about that.
Sometimes I lose the track of time, unfortunately.
Yeah, but when you do a session interactively, it takes more time. I was reading the answers, you were listening to us, so I know. Thank you very much for including the participants, but I guess I scared them so much in the past, they don't want to unmute themselves and say anything. You know what kind of a stepmother I can be. Okay. Yeah, everyone is writing down compliments.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much again, Esen Hocam.
I thank you, Hocam. Thanks for the opportunity.
Take very good care of yourself. Don't forget that we will invite you again. But you have some time to rest. Okay.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay.
I will not knock on your door tomorrow. You will have some time to rest. And my dear colleagues, as usual, thank you very much for not leaving us alone, being with us, for trying to improve yourselves. I admire you guys. I mean, you are the ones that make this profession beautiful.
Exactly. I think everyone should pat their shoulders, you know,
they should,
Friday night,
yes,
and they're here.
Yes.
Awesome.
But you know what? Honestly speaking, with the inflation rate, the best thing is to stay home. Believe me. If you want to go out, even have dinner out, don't. With your salary, it's impossible. Sit at home.
Stay with us.
Stay at home.
New motto, yes. Stay home, stay with us.
After
like
pandemic, now inflation. Stay home.
Exactly.
Take care, everyone. I love you very much. Esen Hocam, thanks
you.
a million. Bye-bye. Take care.
Hocam.
Hope to see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.